In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to build an online coaching business that's going to profit you over 6 figures a month. It's a combination of 4 different videos, so it's split into 4 parts. In the first part, we're going to talk about exactly how to build your offer. What are you actually going to be selling to your audience? How do you make it an irresistible offer that sells itself? In part two, I'm going to teach you how do you actually launch this offer? How do you maximize the profits in the first 2 weeks? Because a good launch is vital in building a successful coaching business. And third, I'm going to walk you through how to build an optimal sales process. So after you launch your offer, where do you direct your audience? What's the process that they're going to go to from A to Z to actually sell them? What does each step look like? What does a sales call look like? How do you prepare for a sales call? What do you do after a sales call? If you're going to run a webinar, a workshop, a video sales letter, all of that stuff is going to be in part 3. And then finally in part 4, I'm going to go through how you can actually fulfill your clients and get them the results that you promised, so that not only you can leverage those results to get more clients, but also so you don't have to spend hours a day on your students. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and can take away as much info as possible to start your own coaching business or scale your already existing coaching business. And without further ado, let's get into the first video, part 1, building your offer. Okay, in this video, I'm going over how to craft an online coaching offer that will generate 100K months. Okay, and creating the right offer is probably the most important part of building any online coaching business, especially one that's going to generate 6-figure months. Okay. And the reality is, if you build the wrong offer, nothing else will work because the offer is the foundation that everything else in your business sits on. And so, how do you build the right offer? What is the right offer? Well, you need product market fit. Basically, you need to create something that your audience actually wants, not what you think they want. Okay. In econ terms, your supply needs to match your audience's demand. If you build something that your audience does not want or does not align with their values, they are not going to buy it. So if you don't understand your audience, you can't build the right product for them. So how do you actually find product market fit? Well, it's pretty simple. You just need to do something called market research, which is often overlooked by most people because it seems boring or unnecessary, or not something that you would do in the online coaching space, right? But in reality, it's one of the reasons why your offer is not printing as much as it should be or is failing altogether. So what is market research, and how are we going to use market research to find product market fit, ultimately to build that offer that your audience actually wants? Okay. So market research is the process of analyzing data about a target audience. Okay, so all of your followers, all of the people that see your content, that's the total addressable market. Okay, the TAM in marketing terms. And what we're doing is analyzing their total addressable market and figuring out who are they, what are they, and basically we're gathering all the data possible so that we can use that data to build the right product. And if you build the right product, you can spend so much less time selling because your audience will already be pre-sold. Okay, so data, what does that mean? Are we looking at what relationships they're in and what do they eat for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Not necessarily. We're looking for 3 things. Your audience's current state, their current problems, and their future goals. So if you just remember 3 things, those would be the most important. And understanding all 3 of these is essential in crafting a winning offer. And I'll show you exactly how we're going to figure out just these 3 things in a few days. Okay, so that kind of brings me to the next section. How do we conduct proper market research so that you can obviously build a product that your audience needs? So I've broken it down into 3 simple phases. And if you follow them by the end of this video, you will guaranteed have an offer that your audience wants. Okay, so phase 1, you're going to come up with a list of relevant questions. Okay, this list needs to once again address the 3 most relevant things: the current state, the current problem, and the future goals. And so you're going to create this list of maybe 5 to 10 questions, and basically all the questions should be about these 3 problems right here. Maybe we could do 6 questions, 2 questions for each problem. Okay, 2 questions about, okay, where are they currently at right now? How much money are they making? What's their job? Okay, then current problems. Okay, what are they facing, in terms of financial problems, relationship problems, whatever it is, whatever your niche is, right? And then future goals. Where do they want to see themselves? How much money do they want to be making? if your relationship, what type of relationship do they want to be in. So you're just basically figuring out the current state, the current problems, and the future goals. Okay, that's phase one. And so what you're going to do is come up with a list of questions, write them down on a Google Docs, and have them ready for your audience. Okay, now we're going into phase two. So now you're going to get a sample of your audience to answer these questions, right? If you have 100,000 followers, there's no way you're going to get 100,000 people to answer these questions, and you realistically don't need that much data. Okay, but what we're going to do is create a sample audience. So this will just be a sample that represents your entire audience. Just like done in scientific testing, how they use a sample size to represent the more broader audience. We're doing the same thing. And we're going to use that data to build what's called an ICP, an ideal customer profile, or maybe you've heard of it in different terms. There's a couple different names for it, an avatar. But basically what your sample audience, if it could be kind of dwindled down to one person, what do they look like? What do they do? What are their goals? What are their problems? All of that. And that's what's going to be called your ICP. And so there's basically two simple ways that you can go about asking these questions to your audience to get that sample data. And the first way is to get on actual calls. And this way you're going to get a lot more in-depth answers, but it is going to take a little bit longer and a little bit more brain power. So this looks like maybe a 5 to 15 minute call over Zoom, Google Meet, or maybe even just over phone. And basically you'll post something on your story asking for people to help. Ask for people they want to get on a call and maybe offer them something in return, like a free asset, a free resource, something like that. And then, put a calendar link, whatever it is, and get maybe 10 to 20 people to book a call. And you're going to be able to get really in-depth questions and really talk to your audience. Of course, this way takes a little bit longer than the latter, but the other way is to just send the questions through DMs. So once again, just post something on your Instagram story or X or whatever it is. Once again, just asking for help, but instead of asking to get on a call, just ask them to answer some questions. And then if they reply to that story, just go ahead and have the questions ready, copied and ready to paste, and then just send them individually, just as if you were asking them verbally over a call. Just do it over the DMs, and you're going to get a little bit less in-depth answers, but it's a lot easier. And it's a little bit easier to get more data doing this as well. And then additionally, you can post, if you're on Instagram, you can just post questions on your Instagram story like this. You just copy one of the questions in here. I personally actually do prefer this method as well. And you're going to get a lot of answers, and they're just going to be a little bit less detailed. But once you have all the data for all your questions, what you're going to do is actually build out your ICP. And basically, this looks like a profile for what your average audience looks like. What is their situation? What is their problems? What is their desired situation? Desired outcome? What's the gap holding them back? What is their limiting beliefs? Why do they think that they can't reach this? Right? You need to know these things because that's how you're going to craft your offer. And so you're going to basically fill out a sheet just like this that describes your average customer, right? And then once you've done that, phase two is over. You've collected all your data and you've built out your ICP. Okay. So now phase three is when we're going to use this data, the info that you gathered, to craft your offer and to craft the right offer, taking into account the three main questions as well as the ICP that you just created. So the first thing I want to do is just start off by creating a rough draft of what's called an offer statement. So an offer statement is basically like a summarized version of your offer. If you could just compress it into one sentence. And some people will use an offer statement maybe on a landing page, on a VSL, whatever it is. If you're planning to, that's great. Now you're going to have one right now. If not, I still recommend you make it anyways. And it needs to do 4 things. Okay, so this is really important. It needs to call out the specific demographic. It needs to solve the problem. It needs to set a clear timeline in which you solve the problem, and then include your unique selling point. So what's unique about your way of solving that problem that no one else does? Okay. And so how do you get the data like what's the problem that you're going to solve, right? This is all from the questions that you asked, right? And so I created an example offer right here. So attention single moms, the only way to scale your e-commerce brand to 100K a month in less than 30 days without having to run more ads, and then the VSLs below it or whatever. And so first thing I'm doing is I'm calling out a specific demographic. So your demographic, in this case, it's single moms. And then we're solving a problem. We're scaling their e-commerce brand to 100K a month. And so for scaling to 100K a month, more than likely the audience that I'm advertising to is probably already at 10, 20, 30, 40K a month. Otherwise, I wouldn't put 100K a month. I'm setting a clear timeline in which we will solve the problem, so in less than 30 days. And then our unique selling point is we'll do this all without you having to run more ads. Okay. And now you have a very clear, summarized version of what your offer is actually going to do. And it's going to be so much easier to sell when you know this. And again, why this is so important and the problem I see so often is that people are trying to sell what they think their audience wants, but not what they actually want. Okay. So why would you create an offer where you're going to scale someone's e-commerce brand to $100,000 a month if your audience is all beginners, right? That's way out of reach, right? We need to get them to $10,000 a month first. That's what your offer statement should be, right? And the only way to figure that out is to figure out your audience's problems, their current state, all of that done through market research. And so now, if I figured out my audience is mostly single moms with e-commerce brands doing $20,000 to $30,000 a month who want to scale to $100,000 a month, this offer statement is perfect, and they're going to feel extremely targeted when I'm advertising to them, and therefore more likely to be sold, right? Because what if I just created an offer statement that was like, I'll scale your e-commerce brand without having to run more ads? Okay, like that makes kind of sense, and that might get some of my audience, but it doesn't target my exact audience because the type of content that you post will attract a certain type of audience. You need to know and figure out your audience so that you can create the right offer for them. Okay. And then one more thing, you can also include a guarantee in your offer. I don't recommend this. And if you were to create an offer statement, it would be in there. So, and if you can't reach $100,000 a month in 30 days, your money back. I personally do not recommend to run a guarantee. I think that if you need a guarantee to sell your product, then your product isn't good enough. But you'll see a lot of people do run that, and it can help to actually get customers. And one more thing, if you're in the process of creating your offer statement right now or crafting it, just trying to put it into words and you're having trouble, just DM me on Instagram. It's in the description, it's in my YouTube bio as well. And I'll work with you and help you to try and actually build that offer statement. And now that you actually have the right offer and you're sure of what you're selling, who you're selling it to, what you're doing for them, and what your unique selling point is, now you can build the rest of your coaching business on this strong foundation. Because no matter what, you'll always know exactly what you're doing. Every piece of content you make now is meaningful. Every single funnel you put out is meaningful. Every CTA you put out is meaningful. But if you just throw together some random offer that you think that your audience might want, down the line, you'll see that it will be detrimental to your coaching business. Okay. And now that you do have your perfect offer, you can start building your sales assets. So that's what's going to be used to actually sell your offer. Okay. And I'll cover that in the next video I make that's part of the series. And of course, like always, if you guys want this entire board, just go ahead on Instagram and DM me asset, and it will just automatically be sent over to you along with every other single board from all of my YouTube videos. And so the question is, how do you launch an online offer that's going to generate over $100,000 in the first 2 weeks of release? Okay, I'm going to break down step by step how to launch an online coaching offer to maximize the profits within the first 2 weeks. And as an extra, I'm going to show you at the end of this video a trick that I used to 3x the amount of leads that I got during my last launch with the creator. And as a quick disclaimer, this is not how to craft an offer. This is simply how to properly launch one. And when I mean offer, I mean a plethora of things. I'm not only talking about a high ticket mentorship, $5,000. I could be talking about a PDF that's $5 that you're releasing to your community. I could be talking a low ticket that's $250, really anything that's an online offer, right? Okay. And what people don't understand is that the launch is the most important part of any online offer. It's also where you can make the most amount of money. It all has to do with one simple thing, and that is hype. You want to build so much hype and anticipation around your offer that your audience literally goes to sleep thinking about your offer, like that feeling you have the night before Christmas. You're so anxious and so excited that you can barely get any sleep. You want your audience to basically have that same feeling, but for your offer, right? Okay. And the more interest and hype that you create, the more people that will actually take action come launch day. And therefore, more closes, more money. So how do you actually maximize hype and maximize interest so that more people take action? Okay, so first off, you have to hit every avenue of communication with your audience. That's what a lot of people get wrong, is that they'll be on multiple platforms, but then they'll launch only on Instagram or only on YouTube, right? And basically, you're leaving so much on the table. You need to be hitting every single avenue of communication that you have with your audience. The more touch points you have, the more it will be hammered into their mind that you are dropping this offer. You need to be sending out emails, making tweets. If you have a Telegram channel, send messages in the Telegram, right? Stories on Instagram, ManyChat automations, all that good stuff. You don't want to leave any stone unturned, okay? But more importantly, you want to create a long runway. And I got this saying actually from a guy named Steve McCullough, whose book I have called Predictable Profits, who's basically the master at launching online offers. And he says you need to create a long runway. And the longer runway you create, the bigger the result. And what that often means is you need to hype it up. You need to launch longer than you think that you should be. Before I learned this, I was doing maybe 3, 4, 5 days of launch, the first day an announcement, and then, oh, we're dropping in 2 days and this, and it worked okay. It's better than just dropping the link on your Instagram story or something. But then when I really learned that you need to create the longest possible runway, create the most hype, that's when I really started to get much better results for all of my clients. And now I'm running launches that are over 2 weeks in length, which means I create the first post over 2 weeks in advance from when I actually launch the offer on social media. And so you might be wondering, okay, like, what am I going to actually post every single day for 2 weeks? Like, doesn't it seem kind of repetitive? How am I actually going to make it a real sequence, right? A real runway. And so I've created a launch sequence template, and I've broken it up into 3 distinct stages: the awareness stage, the desire stage, and the action stage. And I guarantee you, if you follow this template to a T, your offers will perform 10 times better on launch. Okay. So I've also built out the full around 10 to 14 day template right here. But first, we're going to go into the 3 stages. Okay. The first stage is the awareness stage. And this is basically the main goal of the awareness stage is to make people aware that this offer exists. Okay. You're not trying to sell anyone. You're not trying to pre-sell anyone. You're just making your audience aware that this thing that you're creating, this thing that you're going to launch, it exists. Okay. And this consists of explaining what it is and answering questions about it, and basically just clearing up any confusion so people know exactly what you're going to offer them. And this kind of ties into 3 important things: the current state of your audience, their pain points, and their desired state. And when you're creating posts and emails and content in the awareness stage, you want to take into account your audience's current state, what are their pain points, and what is their desired state. So right now they make $0 trading. They can't seem to pass their eval, and they want to make $10,000 a month trading. So when you're explaining to people what it is, you need to take that into account. Say, I know you guys you're not making as much money as you want to make trading. I know you guys want to be at $10,000. I know you guys can't get past this eval to get funded, right? And you basically want to call out their current state, call out their pain points, and this offer is going to be their desired state, right? And these 3 things also play into stage 2, which is the desire stage. Okay. So people won't buy things that aren't desirable. So now they know what it is, but why do they actually want it? How is it going to work for them? How is it going to improve their lives? Okay. And that comes back to the same 3 things. The offer has to take into account their current state and their pain points and solve those problems to get them to the desired state. Okay. Because they're asking, sure, this thing is great, but why is it great for me? So this is the stage where we're actually creating desire to buy, right? And so now you've explained what it is, you've cleared up the confusion, and now what you need to do is show social proof that it actually works, okay? And that's why you're going to leverage results and case studies in this stage. So this is going to be 3 or 4 days straight of just leveraging results and case studies on your email, on YouTube, on Instagram stories, whatever you're posting on. You're going to leverage the results that this offer has gotten in the past. If this is the first time that you're launching this offer, don't worry, do not fake results, but more than likely you have used this. So just leverage your own results. Okay. And then after stage 2, after we've created the awareness, we've created the desire, we're going to create action. We want people to take action. And so this is going to include the launch day as well as the post-launch process. Okay. And there's 3 principles that we want to take into account during this stage. And that's going to be urgency, exclusivity, and scarcity. Okay. So they have desire, but why are they going to take action now? There needs to be urgency. If you say that this is going to be open for the next 3 months, for the next year, forever, well, why? Where's the urgency to buy today? Where's the urgency to book a call today, to opt in today? There's none. So that's why you need to add urgency, and don't fake the urgency. Put something like only available today, or it's closing tomorrow, or applied today for priority. And this triggers your leads to actually take action today. Similarly, I like to also include exclusivity. So for example, when I'm doing a high ticket mentorship, I'm always going to give it a name, something like the inner circle or the round table. I'm sure you've seen this time and time again, but it actually works because it creates a sense of exclusivity. And the human brain notices this and kind of tells itself, I want to be part of this, exclusivity, this circle of these high earning people. And while not mandatory, I always do recommend to add some type of exclusivity, such as naming your mentorship or naming your low ticket or anything really. And also, just as important as urgency is we have scarcity. Now, the biggest thing that I can recommend to you guys is to never fake scarcity, because people will know. Because you think that they don't know and you say only 10 spots opening, but then you get 100 people in and maybe you're doing a group call or something and 50 people join and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I thought you were only opening 10 slots, right? Do not fake scarcity, but include scarcity. And don't be afraid to put a number in that seems kind of unreasonable. If you're going to open 50 spots or 100 spots and that seems like a lot, just say it. People appreciate that your audience is going to appreciate that you're being genuine, but it is never a good thing to fake scarcity. And that's one of the reasons why course sellers and people selling and people with online offers get such a bad reputation, is because they fake all these things. They fake the urgency, they fake the exclusivity, they fake the scarcity. And because of that, their offers are never taken seriously and they are never taken seriously. Okay, so now that we have the 3 principles in mind, we're going to go down to the actual template that I made for you guys, okay? And so day 1 is going to be the initial story. And I color coded it to match the stages that we're in, the awareness, the desire, and then the action stage. So just keep that in mind when I'm going through this. Okay, so the first day is going to be the initial announcement, okay? And this is once again just going to be making the audience aware that this offer now exists. Okay, so on an Instagram story from my clients, we'll just do something simple like, guys, for the last few months, I've been cooking up something game-changing behind the scenes just for you guys. Okay, so now this thing exists, right? And similar in the email, okay, we're saying, I found something that cracked the code to reselling. I'm going to be teasing it on my Instagram today. We're not really revealing too much. We're just announcing that this thing either exists or is going to exist in the near future, okay? And similarly, day 2, we're going to do an announcement post where actually explaining exactly what it is. Okay, you want to make a full-time income, reselling, trading, whatever it is, on a scale to blah, blah, blah a month, tired of products. See how I'm targeting the pain points? Tired of your products not selling? You never want to work a 9 to 5. Here are the pain points, because I know this audience is working 9 to 5s. They're having trouble selling the products. They want to scale to 10K a month. So I'm including that all in my stories so that it actually targets my audience and they feel like they're being called out. Okay, I'm creating a group of resellers here. We have that exclusivity that I'm personally going to scale to $10,000 a month. I'm calling it the inner circle. See how I named it? I'm creating that exclusivity and everyone is allowed to apply when it drops. I'm just clearing up any confusion. And another thing I like to do during all stages of launch is you always, always, always want to pick a set date to launch. This is the most important thing. You don't want to say 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or you want to give them a specific day so it is hammered into their mind. And additionally, I'll also add, if I'm on Instagram, a countdown timer, just so it gets solidified into people's mind that the offer will be dropping on this day. So you'll see as I go through more stories, I'm always going to be hammering Friday, 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 launching Friday, launching Friday, so it's solidified in my audience's mind. So now we've announced what it is, what it's going to do, but how does it actually work? How are we going to scale the people in the inner circle to $10,000 a month? Okay. And so this is just going to be explaining it. I'm not going to go through all this because there's a lot of words. And this wasn't actually my own story, but you're basically just going to be explaining how it works, step-by-step process. Okay. You're going to join the inner circle. You're going to get on an onboarding call. We're going to create you a game plan. We're going to scale you over the next 2 months, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But you want to explain how it works because you don't want people to be confused on launch day. Like, okay, well, actually, what is this? What is the inner circle? Like, what? I don't get it. Like, you've teased it for 2 weeks, but what actually is it? Like, how do I actually get scaled to $10,000 a month, right? So you need to explain exactly how it works. And similarly, day 3, we're going to do an FAQ post on Instagram where we just simply say that the offer is dropping Friday, ask me questions about it. And you can answer questions from the audience. I pre-made these. I went on another account and kind of had these questions ready. And it's just going to clear up any confusion. How much does it cost? How do I join though? So is it a mentorship? Is it a group? Just clear up any confusion about your offer, whatever it is. If it's a PDF that you're releasing for $5, if it's a monthly subscription, just clear up any confusion. right? So the two main goals of the awareness stage is to make people aware of it and to clear up any confusion, okay? And so now that you have that out of the way, we're going to go into stage 2, the desire stage. So now you're basically just going to be spamming testimonials on every avenue of communication you have for the next 3 to 4 days. You can get away with 2 days as well. But video testimonial, screenshots testimonial, send testimonials to your email list. Maybe drop a link to a YouTube video where you have a case study with one of your clients, or maybe even just yourself, how you explain how you use this methodology to hit whatever it is, 10K a month, whatever your goal is. And you're just going to basically be spamming these testimonials for these 3 days, creating that desire, okay? And similarly, I didn't include it in this template, but you can also just go over and keep targeting these pain points. Like if you think it's too many testimonials, or you want to add a little filler day in between, and just go back and make posts targeting these 3 things right here. Okay. And so the last day of desire, we are going to be doing just a pre-launch hype, and just drops tomorrow. Who's ready to hit $10,000 a month, whatever it is, with a little countdown timer. All right, just a little bit of hype the day before or the night before. And then that brings us into stage 3, which is the action stage. And this is going to include launch day and post-launch. And for the sake of this video, I made the post-launch 2 days long, but you can make it realistically however long you want. I usually do my post-launch for up to a week and a half. But on launch day, you're just going to remember these 3 launch principles: the urgency, exclusivity, and scarcity. That's how people are going to actually take action. Inner Circle is live. 10 spots are opening up. Apply here. And this is where you're going to drop your sales asset. So whatever it is, if it's the PDF, if it's funneling to a webinar, a VSL, whatever it is, you're just going to drop the link, or maybe a ManyChat DM. This is some actionable item to get to your sales asset. And I'll go over in a different video how to make a winning sales asset. But whatever your sales asset is, in this case, I had a VSL with a Typeform link. But whatever it is, if it's your PDF, you just link it here, okay? And then right after that, maybe 10, 20 minutes, I'm going to post something like already over 100 applications. You guys want to go to the top of the wait list, give me top. And this is going to do 2 things. Number 1, it's going to create more urgency to take action. But number 2, if you're on Instagram and you do a DM anything like this, it's going to boost the engagement and boost the story views. If Instagram sees more engagement, it's going to push that story out to more viewers and more of your audience. So it's really important that you set up a ManyChat automation and include a DM me call to action. And I usually do that on launch day. You can also do it after launch day and post launch. Okay. So now, I didn't include it, but you'll be sending out your emails. If you created some SMS, you'll be sending out your SMS. Posting on YouTube, on Twitter, whatever it is, you're just going to post all the launch copy going towards your sales asset, right? Okay. And now post-launch, this is what a lot of people neglect, because they think everyone's just going to see their post on this day. But what if someone was out doing something? If you have a large enough audience, there's a good chance that a portion of your audience is just not going to be on Instagram or on social media that day, right? And they've waited these 2 weeks, and then they missed this one day, and the story's only up for 24 hours, and they've missed it. These super warm leads. So you need to do a post launch. Okay. So next day I'm going to post, crazy, not expect 300 people to apply. Currently getting back to everyone. So hold tight. I'll post a link right there. Or I'll do a follow-up story. Maybe the next day I'll do barely any spots left. Maybe some real scarcity here. Feel bad the story was only up for 1 day. So reply spot. We're going to do a ManyChat automation, sending them the sales asset again. And you could just kind of drag this out for a couple of days. And you'll see your leads increase exponentially. Because not only are you creating more time for your audience to take action, maybe if they did see it the first day and they didn't do it, now they see on the second day, on the third day, maybe they'll do it on the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th day, right? You just want to give them as many opportunities as possible, okay? And so that's a very easy 10-day, about a week and a half launch template. I'm telling you that if you copy this and you really take into account these 3 stages, you will get so many leads on launch day that you do not know how to handle them, okay? And that takes me to another thing. You want to create everything, every single piece of content, every single piece of copy before you even post the first kind of teasing story or whatever it is the first day. You want everything created. And I've done it both ways. And I'll just tell you right now, it is so much more stressful if you're creating everything the night before or 5 minutes before you post it. What I do is I take 1 day and I create absolutely everything. I plan on everything. I plan the exact day the launch is going to happen. I create it all and I put it in a Google Drive and I just post it 1 day, second day, third day, it takes me 5 minutes a day to post it or to send out the emails. And it is so much easier and so much less stress. Okay. And if you follow this template of creating a long runway, you're going to get insane results. For example, with this client I'm showing you right here, this was months ago, but we booked 80 qualified calls in one day from only 3,500 story views of a very cold audience as well. This Instagram account was actually quite new. As you can see, a calendar for one of my closers was absolutely filled up with over 14 calls a day for a week straight. This is what a day looked like. It was absolutely hectic. And these were the KPIs right here. We had around 250 applications to 80 booked calls. And the only way that I was able to get that many calls booked on the first day was because I created such a long runway. I created so much anticipation. I created so much hype that many people took action on that first day. Because I guarantee you, if I would have tested it with an account the exact same in the same niche with the same audience, and I had done a 3-day launch, I'd have gotten a fifth of this amount of booked calls. But there is a drawback to having such a good launch sequence. Okay, these are two important things to remember. Your team is going to be overwhelmed, or you are going to be overwhelmed if you're taking these sales calls, or however your offers work. You're going to be overloaded in the first couple of days. So you need to prepare yourself and you need to prepare your team in advance so that you can handle this amount of leads. For example, if you only have a couple slots opened up on your calendar or on your closers' calendars, and maybe the 15 call spots got booked immediately, and then 70 people couldn't book a call, you just lost so many leads because of that. So you want to make sure that you or your closers' calendars are open and your closers are free and they can take as many calls as possible. Because usually when I'm running a high ticket mentorship or a call funnel, you never want to book a call more than 3 days in advance because the lead just gets less warm every single day and it's harder to close. For a launch, I think you'd stretch up to 4 or 5 days. But realistically, you want to make sure that your calendar is open. Whatever kind of offer you're launching, you can handle those amount of leads coming in the first 1 to 3 days. This was a mistake that I made on one of my first launches. I was closing all the calls. I had my calendar open for 5 hours a day for 3 days, for up to 3 days in advance. And I basically lost out on maybe 3/4 of my leads who would have booked straight from the funnel. And I had to go get a setter to call them, okay, to rebook them. Now, this brings me to the second thing is test your backend. Obviously, it's a lot more crucial if you're running a more complicated process of a setter to a closer, to automatically joining the program, whatever it is. But you want to test your backend because if something malfunctions while hundreds or thousands of leads are coming in, you can lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And this is once again from experience. One time I was launching a high ticket mentorship and the SMS was not working. And therefore, no one could get any reminders about their calls or the link to join their calls. And it absolutely wrecked the launch. Okay. And that was because I did not test the backend. Okay. You need to test the backend at least twice. Fully go through it as if you're a lead, as if you're a non-qualified lead, as if you're a lead, and make sure to do it multiple times. Because trust me, you do not want to be fixing something like a small automation, even a small automation on the day of launch, okay? And I know I'm talking about more of like a high ticket sales call flow, but this is really for anything. Even if you're just launching a PDF and the link doesn't work, and yet all those people hyped up and the link doesn't work, you're gonna lose so many leads, okay? So you always want to make sure to test your backend. And if you guys stayed this long, I did promise I would show you a secret that I used to 3x my leads on my last launch, okay? And this was by adding a joinable waitlist, okay? Basically what it was all throughout the awareness stage and the desire stage of the launch, I added a link to a waitlist. And basically this waitlist took you to a page where you put in your name and your phone number and you said, reserve my spot on launch, and you click submit, and that's it. And then I had to take them to a testimonial after, right? But basically I'm getting a name and a phone number. And what is that going to do? It's going to do two things. First of all, it's going to make your audience take action before launch. Right? Because normally we're just having them take action on launch day or post-launch, but now we're having them take action before launch. And what that does is it adds a sense of commitment and helps them remember, right? If they went and they actually filled in their information, they're going to remember a lot better. And they're going to feel a sort of commitment, like they've already put in their name, they already put in their phone number, right? They're more tied to the actual launch now, okay? And second, it's just going to add another touch point on the day of launch, right? So now you can run run an SMS launch, and that is probably the most effective way to launch because it goes straight to your lead's phone, right? As soon as you do it, they get the text message, they look and they see the text, right? And so we're adding another touch point. Maybe they'll get an email, they'll see the Instagram story, maybe they'll see an Instagram reel, a YouTube video, a Twitter, but now they're getting a text. So they're getting another touch point and they're getting it straight to their phone. I implemented this about 1 month ago and I almost 3x the amount of leads that I got on that launch just because of that waitlist. And by the way, I included it in like every single story. I pushed it way too hard, but sometimes you just have to do that. And it's funny because every single person in the niche caught on to this. And as I saw them launching their offers in the same niche, I saw, oh, the waitlist link. And I was like, oh, that's just proof that it works. So I promise you, if you follow this template and you keep in mind these 3 stages throughout your entire launch, you create a longer runway than you think you ever would have to, no matter what you're launching, whatever it is. If it's a high ticket mentorship, if it's a low ticket course, if it's a monthly subscription, if you're selling a workout PDF, you will get so many more leads. You will set your offer up for success in the future, and you will make a buttload of money just from this one launch. I always tell people that the launch is the most important part of any offer, of any online coaching business, of any product, anything you're selling. The launch is so important and it always gets overlooked. So I want you guys on your next launch to put in a lot more effort, to create a longer runway, to create everything beforehand, use a joinable waitlist, double check your backend, prepare your team, follow these 3 stages and see what happens. And also, if you guys want this document, go ahead and go to my Instagram, which is going to be in the description of this video, and in my YouTube, and just DM me asset. And I'll have an automation that will just send this all over to you in a Google Drive. You'll have all my assets from every YouTube video that I have. So just go ahead and DM me asset, and this will all be sent over to you so you can look at this more in depth. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the 3rd part in the Building a $100,000 a Month Online Coaching Offer series. And in this video, we're going to cover how to build a sales process that will print 100K a month for your coaching offer. Okay, so what is a sales process? Well, this is the thing that's going to actually convince your audience to buy into your offer. Okay, so we've created your offer. You know what you're selling. You know who you're selling to. We've done a launch process. So we've built up all this hype and we've launched it. Okay, so what are we directing them to? Well, we're directing them towards a sales asset. And the process of directing them there, as well as closing them after, is going to be what's known as a sales process. And so why is a sales process so important? So without your sales asset and process, you'll never convince anyone to buy from you. So if you just post content and good educational content and you build your offer and you maybe launch it and you have like a link in your bio for a payment link, right? There's no process there. There's no sales asset. You're not actually trying to convince anyone to buy from you. That's why it's so important that you actually create a process. Think of it like the vehicle in which your prospect takes to become a client. It starts at the launch or at the content, and they take this vehicle, which is the sales process, and they're driven in it until they become a client and they pay you. And there are an infinite amount of ways to make a sales process and so many different assets to sell through. But since this is high ticket, I will be assuming that you are going to be using a sales call to close your clients, or a sales call is going to be a part of the flow, because this is aimed at selling $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 plus items. I will always, and for all of my clients, be using a sales call. So what does an example of a sales process look like? Okay, maybe you direct them to a webinar. After that webinar, there's a call to action to a sales call. You get the sale. Maybe you go straight from a call to action from one of your videos to DMs, and you set someone in the DMs onto a sales call. You could go from a story CTA to a video sales letter to a sales call. You could do a 3-day workshop to a sales call. You can have them join the low ticket. In the low ticket, they see a VSL, and then they go from there to a sales call. There's just an infinite amount of possibilities, and the exact process that you use is going to depend on your niche, on your followers, their style, your style. What are you best at doing? So I'm not going to give you some singular way that's better than every other process. It's simply going to depend on your preference and how you decide to go about it. But I will say the most vital part is the sales call. Okay, and I'm going to center the process around the sales call. That's always what I'm thinking when I'm making a new sales process for a client. I'm always centering it around the call. And we want the lead to be warmed up before they get on the call. So if they see one piece of content and then all of a sudden are directed to a sales call, they're not going to be warmed up. They're not going to be ready to buy. And ultimately, you'll never make the sale. So your lead needs to be nurtured before entering the sales call. And this is mainly done with content, right? The more content that you give them, the more content they watch, the more familiar they're going to be with you, the more authority you're going to have, the more credibility you're going to have, and the more likely they are to buy. And like I said, if you try to, and this brings me next to my next point, is how should you position your sales process? How should you position your funnels so that you don't funnel someone in after watching one reel to a sales call that's just ultimately not going to close them? Okay. So you always need to think about how your lead is going to be nurtured before entering the sales call. Okay. So there's a 3-phase process to warm up and close your leads that I've come up with. So phase 1 is warming up and setting the lead on the call. Okay, so I've made 2 examples, one for if you're sending them to the DMs, another if you're doing like a workshop or a webinar or one-to-many. Okay, so say you're in the DMs. So they've watched some content, they've watched some music videos, and now they see a CTA to DM, coaching or whatever it is. And so they DM this, okay, and now you have them in the DMs and you're sending them onto a sales call. Okay, so this process, you're going to find your lead's current state, their pain points, and their desired outcome through questioning. Now that you have their problem and you have their pain points, you're going to pitch a sales call as a way to solve the problem. But what you're doing is you're qualifying the lead, you're extracting important information about them, and you're proposing to solve their exact problem or problems with your product to get to their desired outcome. And from there, you'll book the sales call. So with this process, you can qualify the leads. So see if they're ready to get on a sales call. If they're not, then don't book them. You extract the information necessary about their situation. You solve their unique problem using your offer, using your product, so that they can arrive at their desired outcome. Or similarly, if you're running a webinar or a workshop, it works the same way, but as a one-to-many. So maybe you're not in the DMs, you're still explaining common pain points of your audience, the people watching the webinar. You're pointing out their current state. They're currently making under $10,000 a month working 9 to 5s. They feel tired. They feel overworked. They feel like they don't have enough freedom. You're showing them their desired outcome. They want to be making $20,000 a month, doing this, this, and that, quit their job. And you're going to show how your product will get them there, how it will take them from point A to point B. And you'll see that even in these 2 totally different situations, in the DMs or in like a webinar with 1,000 people watching, you're ultimately doing the same thing. And at the end, you add a CTA the same way you do in the DMs for a sales call, for them to book a sales call. And I only use these 2 examples, but once again, if you're doing a VSL, a video sales letter, and you make a 10-minute video, it's the same exact thing. You're simply qualifying the lead, extracting the information, and proposing to solve their exact problems to hit their desired outcome. And that's phase 1 of the sales process, is making sure that they're properly warmed up, they're actually qualified to be getting on this call, and that you've set expectations to what's going to happen on this call. And that is that their problem is going to be solved. Okay, so now the sales call is booked, but the warming up and the nurturing does not end there. Because if you just book them on a sales call for 3 days in advance, you send a 24-hour reminder and maybe a 1-hour reminder, and you expect them to get on that call ready to buy, you would be an idiot. The pre-call process is so incredibly important, not only for your show-up rates, but your close rates as well. Okay? Because without a proper pre-call flow, the show-up rates will be low because no one has any incentive to show up, and your close rates will be extremely low. So you need to give your prospects an actual reason to show up. And the best way to do this, the best way to make sure that a prospect shows up to a sales call, is to make them take action before the call. You cannot leave it up to automated reminders alone. They just aren't enough. So I built out an example pre-call flow that I use to warm up the prospect and get them ready before the sales call. Okay, so the setter sets the call, or the webinar, or the VSL, and the call set. Okay, if we're using a setter, we're adding them to a group chat with the closer, an iMessage group chat, or we're having a setter reach out if they were booked not using a setter. So if they were booked on a webinar, we're having a setter reach out, call them, and still add them to a group chat with this closer. And the closer is the person who's going to be on the call closing them. And so the setter's going to send the initial message. Hey, this is, so and so is going to be on call with you on Friday. And the closer is going to send them a video to watch. And it's basically just a pre-made video from the offer owner. So either you or your client, it's basically going to be setting expectations for the prospect to show up on time, get ready to take action, be able to be in a quiet space for 45 minutes, whatever the requirements are for your sales call. This video is going to outline them. And then you're going to have the prospect confirm that they've actually watched the video by sending a message. So now they're taking action and it's imprinted in their mind everything that was in that call. Okay. Additionally, you could have your closer call them as soon as they get added to the group chat and confirm manually that way. But then after that, what's going to happen is the closer is going to send them testimonials to watch. So if you don't have any testimonials, don't worry about it. You can skip this part for now. But if you do have good film testimonials or interviews with your students, this is the time when your closer is going to be sending them to your prospect. And so now in these testimonials, it should have gone over the full process, how you took so-and-so from A to B using your process. What happened? Where were they at before? Where are they at now? How's their life changed? How are they better? And basically what's going to happen is that the prospect is going to see themselves in this person and how your client, how you took them from the position where they're at now to the position where they want to be. So they're seeing the process happen right in front of them. And this is the number one way to get your prospect to show up and to get them ready for the call is through a relatable testimonial. And you can send multiple and also make sure that they are confirming that they've actually watched the video. You need to make sure that they're taking action every single time. And you're not just sending 10, 20 messages to someone who's not responding. Okay. Besides that, I also have my closer call them 24 hours before the call. And just another reminder, make sure, they're verbally confirming that they can show up as well as an hour before as well. So I'm going to have them call an hour before, ring, ring, ring. Hey, Daniel, are you ready for our call in an hour? Make sure you arrive right at 2. You're in a quiet space, blah, blah, blah. Is everything good? Boom. And then on top of that, we are still going to have the automated reminders. So when they're booked, they're going to get a text message. 24 hours before, 12 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. When the call starts, they're going to still be getting email and text reminders, but that alone is not enough. It helps, and it's certainly necessary, but the actual person-to-person flow with your setters and closers is going to be so much more important. And so if you do all this, your prospects will actually have a reason to show up, right? They've seen the testimonials, they've seen the video from you, they've confirmed multiple times they've had 2 in-person phone calls with your closer or 3. They're in a group chat. They actually have reason to show up, which now brings us into phase 3. So now your prospects are actually going to get on the sales call. And like everything else, a sales call is a repeatable framework. It should be formal and structured, and you need to hold yourself or your closer to the highest possible standard. Because if you or your closer, show up late, you have a bad mic, bad camera quality, you're going to instantly lose all authority and credibility that you've built up to this point. Like imagine you are showing up to a sales call where you're going to possibly spend $5,000 and the guy shows up in a hoodie on his phone with earbuds. Like, are you really going to take him seriously? Are you really going to fork over 2 months rent to this guy? Probably not. So you need to show up 5 minutes before the start time of your call. You need to have everything ready, payment links, a script if you need a script. You need to be dressed nicely. I'm not saying you need to be in a full suit, but get out of the hoodie. Make sure your camera's set up nicely. Your mic is already working and sounds good because you need to set the tone for the call. But other than that, it's going to be up to whoever's on the call, you or your closer. It's going to be up to their sales skills. I'm not going to spend an hour going into sales strategies. You can go figure that out somewhere else. But if I'm going to break it down, you have the opening rapport. Spend a minute or 2 creating some rapport. Explore their current state, explore their pain points, extract information, give them the pitch, show them what the actual offer is, how's it going to help them, handle objections, get that close. And as soon as you close them, the fulfillment starts and the sales process is over. So to summarize, we're going back. It doesn't matter how you do it. You need to make sure that you center the sales process around a sales call, that while setting the sales call, if you're doing in DMs, a VSL, a webinar, whatever it is, you need to make sure that the lead is actually warmed up. You need to extract all relevant information from them. You need to figure out their problems and propose to solve their problems so that they can get to their desired outcomes. And now you've set them, and now they have the sales call booked. Now you need to actually make sure that they're going to show up ready to buy on the sales call. So that's why you're going to make a good pre-call flow. You're going to have them take action multiple times in the days or hours or whatever it is leading up to the call. They're going to take one-on-one verbal calls from your closer. They're going to be added to a group chat. They're going to watch testimonials. They're going to watch a video from you. Then they're actually going to show up on the call, and you're going to use a repeatable framework, show up to the call, ready to close them, set the tone, keep your authority, and then use your actual sales skills to close them. And after that, they're going to now be entering into the fulfillment. So now you're actually going to deliver results to them, which I will go over in the next part and final part of the series. And if you guys want this entire board, if you want to go through it yourself, just go to my Instagram. It's right here. It's also in the description of this video, and just DM me the word asset, and I'll send over not only this board, but every single board from all of my YouTube videos, so you guys can go through and look at it all for yourselves. Okay, welcome back to the final part of the Building a $100,000 a Month Online Coaching Offer series. And so in this video, we're going to figure out how you can actually fulfill for your clients on your $100,000 a month offer. Okay, so now that we've gone this far, you have your unique offer, you have your sales asset so you can sell your offer, and you've launched it and closed clients. So now it's time to fulfill for those clients. So when does fulfillment start? So it starts the second that you close someone. And I will say that the coaching depends heavily on your skills and what you're teaching. So if you're teaching people day trading and your offers for day trading, it's going to depend how well can you teach day trading. Are you a good day trader? Are your methods good? Will they work for other people? And obviously that's different for the hundreds or thousands of different niches out there. And this video isn't going to be specific to one single niche. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to create a framework to save time and deliver the best possible results. So our goal, we're going to build out and manage a fulfillment framework that can scale with quantity while still getting amazing results for your clients. And of course, what you're going to do is take this framework and add in your specific niche, whatever you're selling, whatever you're coaching, you can still use this framework. And so when I think of a high ticket coaching program, I think of 3 pillars. First, you have your pre-made resources. And so these are your recorded course modules, data sheets, bots, automations, written guides, whatever you make beforehand that doesn't cost you any time once the coaching actually starts. Then we have what most people and I would consider the most important thing, and that is the actual one-on-one coaching. So that can come in the form of, one-on-one Zoom calls, phone calls, text access, one-on-one texting, or even maybe weekly or monthly check-ins. And finally, for the third pillar, I like to include community. So that can be a group chat, a group Discord, a group help, whatever it is, but something that embodies your entire community helping each other. And as a little extra, I've included group coaching, which is somewhat of a culmination between one-on-one coaching and your community. And group coaching is extremely important, as I will cover later in this video, because it's the best way to deliver great results while saving you time. Okay, so now that we kind of know what the 3 pillars are, I've broken it down into a 3-phase process of what your clients should be going through from when you first initially close them to when you actually film a testimonial at the end after they've gotten good results. So first is the onboarding process. The main thing about the onboarding process is that it should be extremely smooth and effortless. And so we have 3 main goals for the first phase. We're going to collect client info, set expectations, and have the client receive all of the pre-made resources. So there are 2 ways that I recommend coaches to onboard their clients. First is through a simple onboarding form. It's easier and less automated. It simply comes in the format of multiple questions, multiple choice questions and answers that aim to collect as much info on your client as possible. But this is something that can be made in 10, 15, 20 minutes. Alternatively, you can use what I use, which is an onboarding app, which is a bit harder to set up, but is way more automated. And so if you look at an example of what I've made, and I made this completely with AI, once someone's onboarded, all they have to do is log in, and I have them log in on the sales call, and they can complete their profile, they can take an initial assessment, they can book their first call, they can go through the welcome resources, join everything, access a full course, and answer a bunch of different questions so that we can collect info on them. And why is it so important to collect info? Well, you need to know their current state, their pain points, their goals, what they've tried in the past, if you want to actually be able to coach them to the best of your ability. If you know nothing about your clients, then you won't be able to coach them. It's as simple as that. And that's why the main goal with onboarding is just collect as much info as you can so that ultimately you can better help them and get them better results. Now, similarly, you're going to have to give them access to all your pre-made resources. So in the app that I made, they actually can access it all right here. If not, if you're going to use a form, you just have to figure out a way to send them these resources or send them a link to get access to these resources. But everything you've pre-made, all the course modules, all the data sheets, tools, bots, anything, needs to be sent to them the second that they close. They are expecting something after they just paid $2, $3, $4, $5,000. They are expecting something immediately. So make sure, whether you have a form or an app, that you're able to deliver these things to your client as soon as possible. And thirdly, we're setting expectations. So you need to make sure they know when and where everything is happening. And by everything, I mean one-on-one calls, check-in, group calls, where the community is at. And similarly to this step, I have this all in the app. So there's actually a section where they can see where everything happens, where they can book their first call. And that's why I'm continuing to recommend using an app, because you could literally just put everything all in one. But say you use a form, maybe at the end of the sales call, if you have an onboarding call, you need to make it clear how many one-on-one calls they have, how long are they going to take, what's going to happen on those calls, when do they need to be there, they need to be on time, how do the group calls work, how can they access those, are we going to do check-ins, group check-ins, etc. You need to just set very clear expectations to not only hold your client accountable, but you as well. And so after that, if you've done everything correctly, whether you're using a form or an app, you should have collected as much information on your client as possible. So now you can coach them to the best of their ability. You set the expectations for how the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months are going to go. And they've received all of the resources that you made in advance for them. And that concludes phase 1, which is the onboarding phase. So now you begin phase 2. And this is when the direct coaching begins. So this is what I would like to call the bulk of the fulfillment. This is where your clients are going to really start to learn and start to get results. Okay. And so the biggest part of the direct coaching for phase 2 is the one-on-one coaching aspect. So this is where your client is going to receive the majority of their one-on-one coaching, whether it be one-on-one Zoom calls, texting, however you set up the one-on-one coaching access. This is where they should receive the bulk of it. And your student should see exponential growth during this phase. Depending on how many one-on-one coaching sessions you're doing or how that works, you need to implement check-ins. And this can be as simple as text check-ins or voice notes, but you need to make sure that you're holding your client accountable and you're checking in with them constantly during this phase, because this is where they're going to be growing and they're going to be needing as much attention as possible. And besides that, this is also where the group coaching will start. So the group coaching, I say, should happen frequently, at least once a week. And I think if you're not doing it at least once a week, you need to go back to the drawing board and figure something out. And it should work as a repeatable framework. So every single call is structured the same. It starts with maybe a lesson that you've pre-made, and then you go into a Q&A, and then you help people out specifically, and you cover a different topic each week, but something that's repeatable and students know what to expect. And the reason why you should put so much emphasis on group coaching, because it's the best way to deliver quality coaching while optimizing for your own time. And so to recap for this phase, your students should be getting the bulk of the one-on-one coaching. They should be getting weekly, monthly check-ins, and they should also be receiving quality group coaching. If you include all this together, then your client will get amazing results during this phase. And so what happens after that? Well, if you're truly going to scale with quantity, then you can't promise every single one of your students an infinite amount of one-on-one calls. You would run out of time. So that's why I always limit the amount of one-on-one calls that my client students receive. So that could be 5 one-on-one calls or 1 one-on-one call every single month for 5 months or 6 months or whatever it is. But as soon as that direct one-on-one support ends, that's when we enter phase 3, which is continued support. So they've gone the bulk of their one-on-one coaching. You've taught them most of everything you know. And so now they're going to be getting less one-on-one help, but still continued support. So that might include check-ins still, even if it's just over text, if you're checking in with them once a month, asking how they're doing. seeing what they need help on, seeing what they're struggling with, what's working for them. And the main source of their education should still now be coming from the group calls. Because once again, you're delivering one-to-many coaching. So you're not spending any more time on the individual, but you're spending time on the group as a collective. And it's important that you continue your support even after the direct coaching of phase 2. You can't just give them, super attentive coaching for 3 months and then say, okay, you're done. In my eyes, that's a faulty fulfillment process. Okay, so now if we recap, they've been closed. They go through the onboarding process. It's smooth. You set expectations. They get access to all the pre-made resources. They give you all their info. Then the direct coaching begins. They start getting a lot of one-on-one coaching, check-ins, group coaching. This is the time where they exponentially grow and start getting real results. And then after that, they go into phase 3 of continued support, where it's a little bit less one-on-one help, but they're still getting group coaching and getting check-ins. And by this time, they should have, if they've kept up with it, received great coaching and gotten great results. And that's where we come in with a testimonial. So if you deliver good coaching and your client has good results, always ask for a testimonial. Whether it's just a 15-second video they send you that you can post somewhere, or a full 40-minute in-person interview with them, testimonials are so important and the best way to leverage your results to get more clients. Because the better testimonials that you film, the more trust and credibility that you will gain with your audience, and therefore the more students that you will close and the more money you'll make. And that brings me to my next 2 points, and that the best way to get more clients is to be successful in getting results for your current clients. And many people forget this. Many coaches and online coaches forget this. They focus too much on the marketing aspect and the sales aspect, and just getting as many clients as possible, as much money in their bank account. And what ends up happening is they often neglect the students in which they closed, and they can't deliver good results. And people figure this out. They ask for refunds, they share online, they tell other people, and your whole coaching business will break down. Simply, the best way to get new students is to get results for your old students. They'll tell their friends. You can film testimonials, you can film case studies, and leverage all of that and help yourself get new clients. Because fulfillment is really the most important part of any online coaching business, and many people nowadays forget that. Because if you cannot get your students high quality results, you should not be selling them anything in the first place. And as always, if you want this entire board, just go ahead and DM me the word asset on Instagram. My handle is right here. It's also in my bio, my YouTube bio, and I'll literally just send over this one along with all my other YouTube video boards. And if you are an online coach, creator, or consultant, and you already have an info offer and it's doing whatever 5, 10, 15, 20, 100K, or you don't have an offer but are a professional in your niche, I do want you to go to this link right here. It's also going to be in the description of this YouTube video, and go ahead and watch the video I made to see if I can actually help you scale your online coaching business. But other than that, thank you guys for watching this video. And if you're interested in growing your online coaching business, go to my YouTube and watch every other YouTube video that I have. I drop as much sauce as possible and I don't hold anything back.